Hey guys, I wanted to make a video on Akira Toriyama's influences in modern fantasy tabletop RPGs. Toriyama had a big influence on me. I was, and still am to some extent, a very big fan of Dragon Ball Z, most of Toriyama's franchises, really. I didn't play many of the Dragon Quest games growing up. I played Chrono Trigger. I love Toriyama's artwork. His vision of fantasy is so interesting because it's sci fantasy. And of course you can look at a lot of the early Dungeons and Dragons stuff clearly has sci fantasy influences, like Castle Greyhawk. Um, those are more directly derived from Jack Vance's Dying Earth, but as things have gotten more and more recent, the sort of power level and pacing is more similar to a Japanese shonen style of pacing and, well, power level progression, as I just said, than anything Western, really. Shauna mentioned this in a recent video, and I thought that's dead on. He's really right about that. He meant it in a derogatory sense because he doesn't like Dragon Ball very much, but um, I think there's something to be said there. When you look at Dragon Ball, there's the original starting of there's some martial arts, but eventually, of course, it gets mixed with these insane, ki blasts and all of these different energy waves and fantastical abilities that would be more at home on a wizard or a sorcerer in early Dungeons and Dragons. But as Dungeons and Dragons gets to 3rd edition 3.5 into the early 2000s and on, we see the monks start getting these key powers and these different abilities to shoot beams, open a third eye, regenerate their health by standing still and meditating. Obviously reminiscent of the key charging in Dragon Ball. The power level is not quite as high as it is in Dragon Ball Z, where we're talking, planetary destruction by a season in. But if you look at the original Dragon Ball, it's pretty much on there, with monks often getting access to teleportation abilities reminiscent of the instant transmission in Dragon Ball. So it's very cool to see that sort of unspoken thing that Akira Toriyama had not only such an impact on the shonen genre in Japan, but he had a worldwide lasting legacy in things that he wasn't even touching as a genre. He never made any tabletops, as far as I understand, and yet his influence is still there. There's, regardless of whether or not you like this, I think this is actually a way to think about hit points better. The characters in Dragon Ball can take an insane beating and keep functioning. They get hit by these giant laser blasts and then they're like bloodied and bruised. Meanwhile, everything behind them has been like vaporized, but the character themselves is just there. And there's this sort of intangible power level, which is a fixed number, but it's never explained exactly what it is. It's just this would kill somebody with a power level of 10, and somebody with a power level of 10,000 gets kind of scratched up and bruised by it. What happens between those? What sort of microbiological skin hardening things are changing there? Who knows? But if your brain is reorganized, recontextualized to understand hit point based combat as that, as these are not really normal people anymore. And I'm not just talking about, the Saiyans and the other alien races in Dragon Ball Z. I'm talking even normal humans can survive insane things. They're catching bullets. They're doing ridiculous things that they've never really trained to do. Yamcha is a normal human being who survives 300 times Earth's gravity at all. He even struggles his way up to hit a button, and he's a full human being. So I think we Shauna brings up a good point. We should recontextualize our brains when we're playing these games if you haven't already. I have already come to this conclusion of somebody's getting stabbed multiple times and they're still alive. Well, they're not a normal human being, right? They don't live on Earth. Right? Like just like in Dragon Ball Z, their Earth is it's weirdo, bizarro future Earth. That's not our Earth. We don't know what's in the water. We don't know what's in the air. And it's just an accepted thing, right? No one has to make these long videos explaining, oh, why can. No, they just put in the training, they get beat up, they get back up. Some time passes, they heal up, we skip to the future. Okay, now they're much stronger. The next time they fight, they're leveled up because it's a shonen. A shonen is effectively the basis of a campaign in a game that has levels like Dungeons and Dragons, right? The characters are getting more and more health. Their power level is growing. When you first see Goku, he's like power level 2,000, 3,000. Then all of a sudden, boom, he's spiked up to over 9,000. Of course, the old meme, I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's cringe now, but again, it sparked such a cultural impact even to today. I mean, I can say that to people who are 40, 58 years apart in age, and most people will still understand that. So yeah, the sort of health points thing, the pacing of fights. I think that's a big thing that you could take for these games where your turns take a little longer and combat in general takes a little longer, right? A single one-on-one fight in Dragon Ball Z could take 3 episodes. It could take you an hour and a half to get through a single one-on-one fight. But they're not just fighting there, right? Because each turn is not 6 seconds. I think we need to throw the your turn is X seconds out the window. Your turn's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Goku, and then has a monologue. You know, damn, this guy's really strong. And then Frieza or Cell does the same thing. You think that's going to work? Well, they talk back and forth. They're shit talking. That's how a long fight should go, right? Your long fight shouldn't be. It's not them going. Can I kick? Audience, should I kick? Should I kick him or should I punch him? Oh, or should I throw an energy blast at him? No, they're not doing that. At closest to that, they might say something like, last time he dodged that energy blast. I don't know if it's going to work this time. I've got to think on my feet. And obviously that's like the thought process of the fighter in like split seconds, right? They're not sitting there going bzz, 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 or maybe they are, and then the other guy's already a step ahead of him. He instant transmissions behind him, hits him in the back of the head with an elbow. He goes flying through the air, and the flying through the air, that is a genius design to inflate the combat and insert dialogue in between the combat. Because as the guy's flying through the air, he's thinking, or the other guy's monologuing as he's having to chase him down because he can no longer hit him immediately. And it makes it, in one way, more goofy, but in another way, way less goofy than a lot of action movies where, you know, they beat up the guy, they get him on the ground, and they're just standing over him while the guy's rolling around on the ground. And then he finally gets up, and you're thinking, why don't you just shoot him? Right? So, yeah. Excuse me. The influences that Toriyama has on everything like this are probably endless. Just a short video for now. I'm sure there's more that I'm not thinking of. I'm not like compiling exact references off the top of my head, or, you know, not off the top of my head. I am going off of the top of my head is what I'm saying. So I'm sure there's other things that I can think of, but I don't want this to be a super long drawn out video, mainly just an homage to Toriyama a appreciation for what he what his influences are and what he's influenced over here in the West, right? I hope that regardless of your opinion on Dragon Ball or Toriyama's other work, you can at least value that, right? And see that he has reached out and touched so many, especially in my generation. So yeah, let me know if you've got any cool Toriyama or Dragon Ball stories. What do you think of him? And I'm not going to be one of those that's like, oh, you can't say you dislike Dragon Ball because he just died. No, you like what you like, you dislike what you dislike. So if you don't like Dragon Ball, let me know, right? Uh, Art is meant to move, so if it's moved you, even in a negative way, it's accomplished something, right? It's made you react. The worst thing an artist can leave as a legacy is nobody remembering it like, oh yeah, that was bland. Even if you dislike Dragon Ball, tell me why you dislike Dragon Ball. Tell me what you remember of it that's, super corny, over the top, and just ridiculous that you hate. Because that's a legacy, right? He tried something. He tried something new, and a lot of people liked it, and a lot of people straight up copied it to some extent. So yeah, kind of rambly, really rambly. I'm always rambly. You know me. Thanks for watching.